nowhere to know. Here I am. Ladies and gentlemen, here I am back again, back again. For those folks that care, for those folks that share, yeah, it's your man Mel Mel. I'm here. As always, this live stream may or may not be for you, but I'm here. And consider this. Attorney General in the United States, Jeff Sessions, decided that for some reason we needed a religious freedom task force. For those that don't understand, basically the federal government, outside of having acts and laws and stuff like that passed to protect people, from religious freedom for religious freedom reasons and basically what you call it for I guess freedom to believe what you want to believe, if I gotta say it that way. I know this is all out there and whatnot. Boomer Rock, maybe not here, but maybe I'm here for now. Hey, it's all good, Boomer Rock. I haven't been live in a little bit, but I'm live right now, and I'm talking about religious freedom. Folks, I've told people I'll be here 10 o'clock Tuesday nights. This is the late shift with Mel Mel. I forget which episode this is, but I'm here to talk about what I'm here to talk about. Basically religious freedom. Some people say that Attorney General Jeff Sessions is waging war against the LGBTQ community. Now, I don't know if that's the case. I can't get into it. You always have good things to say. Thank you, Boomer Rock. I appreciate that. I appreciate you for being here. But I'll be here for a little bit, for a little minute or whatnot. I need to shave and whatnot, but that's another story right now. So yeah. So let's get into the Jeff Sessions. Religious Liberty Task Force, part of a dangerous Christian nationalist campaign of discrimination, as talked about. In the article I have, I got the little iPad here, so I'm going into that. I understand, Boomer, if you're not staying around or if you don't want to stay around, it's all good. But I'm still gonna go through this. So yeah, NBCnews.com reported, and I got it right here, reported that Jeff Sessions' Religious Liberty Task Force is part of a dangerous Christian nationalist campaign of discrimination. Conservative Christians have convinced Trump that they are being oppressed and LGBT Americans and religious minorities will pay the price. This is from July 31st, 2018. This is something that they posted on the site. It says, with the help of politicians like Jeff Sessions, religious leaders are trying to redefine religious liberty as a tool of discrimination. In the Trump administration's latest efforts to deliver on promises to its base, Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced a new religious liberty task force at the Department of Justice. Sessions made the announcement at a religious liberty summit, which was backed by Alliance Defending Freedom, ADF. But a closer look at what Sessions and groups like the ADF mean when they talk about religious freedom makes it clear how both religion and freedom are being redefined by this administration to serve an extreme agenda. It's time for people who care about the future of democratic society to reclaim the concept of religious liberty. Plenty of Americans will still value the separation of church and state, and along with it, the Establishment Clause guarantees of freedom of conscience for all people. Outside the circles of the extreme right, religious liberty has long been a progressive value celebrated by abolitionists, tax registers, conscientious objectors, and religious minorities alike. So long as Americans respect the legal rights of his neighbor, the Constitution promises the freedom to obey his own conscience when it comes to matters of religious conviction. What's going on, Yas Poet? Appreciate you for coming through. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. I'm just trying. So I want to play a clip of Jeff Sessions basically talking about what he had to say at the summit, if they'll let it play. I'm trying to get the hot take on it so you can hear it for yourself. I don't know if you're gonna get too deep into it. Come on now, technology. Sorry about that, it's loading. But basically, they're talking about how they're gonna basically redefine the way people worship and what is fair in order to discriminate against people. There's context to this, and I have a piece that I want to add to this as well, because as far as religious, liberty and freedom and stuff like that, it is important. It is important to understand that the way people worship in this country, it needs to be protected. However, it's a situation where it shouldn't be used as a tool to go against people who don't believe, who do have a difference of opinion and stuff like that. So I'm trying to see if this internet is going to work, but it's moving slow. So my Wi-Fi, forgive me.
Let's be frank.
All right, let's see.
Dangerous movement, undetected by many, but real, is now challenging and eroding a great tradition of religious freedom. There can be no doubt, it's no little matter. It must be confronted intellectually, politically, and defeated. This election, this past election, and much that has flowed from it, gives us a rare opportunity to arrest these trends and to confront them. Such a reversal would not just be done with electoral victories, however, but by intellectual victories. We've gotten to the point where courts have held that morality cannot be a basis for law, where ministers are fearful to affirm, as they understand it, Holy Writ from the pulpit, and where one group can actively target religious groups by labeling them atheists. There can be no doubt that we are stronger as a nation because of the contribution of religious people. Every day across America, they feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, educate our young people, care for the sick. They do so not because the government tells them to, but because they want to. They do these things because of their faith. I can assure you that people in Washington have no idea the extent to which our religious community is with the American people in times of birth, death, marriage, divorce, those kind of situations. It is so impactful to human beings. And I believe we need to respect that and affirm it wherever possible.
Yeah, so that's that whole situation. For anybody that see that, good evening to you. What's up, Sherry K? What's going on, Lulu? The problem with that coming from Jeff Sessions is just the history. I don't know if anybody knows of Coretta Scott King, the widow of Martin Luther King. She had something to say about the character of Jeff Sessions back in 1986, and she wrote a letter that Elizabeth Warren tried to read, and I think in the Senate, if I'm not mistaken, and some House Republicans or some of the higher level Republicans tried to stop that from happening. So, I gotta get that down. I gotta get that down. So I don't want to get a copyright strike from Southwest, But I'm trying to get my Wi-Fi together because I wanted to play another clip of something for you, Excuse me. Oh man, technology. But anyway, there's a problem with what was coming from Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions just needs to, yeah, well, something with that, Yas Poet. The thing with Jeff Sessions and him being the one to put forth the religious task force, the religious freedom task force is his history. He has a tatted history, and it's very interesting. It's something I want you to hear. It may be a little bit lengthy, but I will get into it, and it does provide context for what I'm talking about tonight. Forgive me if I'm playing clips and I'm taking my time to go into particular things, because there's a lot to this. Excuse me. I'm just going through it. Yes, the letter of Coretta Scott King. I have it here. So the letter of Coretta Scott King read in by Elizabeth Warren, when it came to confirming the Attorney General Jeff Sessions. She says she has some interesting things, and I'm talking about Coretta Scott King. She has some interesting things to say, about him being confirmed, to be in the higher court back in 1986. And I want Elizabeth Warren to read it, or you listen to Elizabeth Warren read it, because it'll provide context to why this is an issue. Why is somebody like me sitting down, here in my apartment talking about religious freedom, And it's a 15-minute clip, but I think it's worth hearing. I know some of you may or may not want to listen to this, but this will add context to what I will say later on in the conversation. Because I'm not in a rush. Besides, I'm not gonna be live tomorrow anyway. So, but yeah, let's get into that as this plays. I'm gonna let this play because um, it helps to know. So, and I gotta turn it down because I don't want to get the copyright strike. But okay, here we go. I don't know if you can hear me. Let me know. Let me know if you can hear it. Hold on, hold on. Let me know if you can hear it. Okay. Sorry about that. Let me know if you can hear it. I don't know if you can hear it. You can't hear it? Can you hear it? Let me know if you can hear it. Because if you can't hear it, then I can stop it again. Hold on. If you can't hear it, then Bailey, Bailey can hear it. I wanted you to hear that. I wanted you to hear what she said. But basically, what Elizabeth Warren was saying in that letter, she was going through the character of Jeff Sessions and talking about how he participated in voter fraud back in 1986. In 1986, basically, Jeff Sessions, I heard it just fine. Oh, okay, tips from Tosh time. Okay, it, anyway, like I said, for those folks that can't hear it, Jeff Sessions basically was somebody who discriminated against black people, voters, and stuff like that. From actually, you know, uh, getting their rights and stuff like that. So this is the person, that's deciding now in 2018. Some odd years later, many years later, after the admonishment of Coretta Scott King, Martin Luther King's widow at the time, writing to the courts in a 9-page letter, that's been documented and brought to the public by Senator Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts. The reason that is important is because it gives you a sense of the character of the man who's now deciding that they want to put together a religious task force to actually decide, which rights will be protected and which religious groups will be protected. So the reason that's a problem is because he's somebody who has a discriminatory past, and people can change, things can change, and I'm not saying that folks can't switch around and actually do something worthwhile. The problem with somebody like Jeff Sessions is that he has a record, a past of discriminatory behavior, towards African Americans, marginalized people, to stop voter frauds and things of that nature. So and he's had other things that have come about, to against his record and whatnot, coming from Alabama and stuff like that. The issue with it now is that he comes out with this religious task force meant to, protect people's religious liberty or their right to worship as they choose, as they please, when there was already things in place, where there was a Religious Liberties Act and stuff like that. There's civil liberties. There's groups out there to protect that. There's people out there who don't need the permission of the federal government to basically worship as they please, to believe what they will. That's the issue. Now, as it pertains to the LGBT group, LGBT group, LGBT community, they feel as if, or at least it's been reported, they feel as if it's a war being waged against the LGBT community. And I can see where that would become an issue, because how do you not think that it's something going on when there's been discriminatory things done and said versus the LGBT community, like stuff like no trans, they don't want transgender people in the military now. There's a big outcry against that. So you have the Justice Department and Trump and all these other folks out there who are against certain things that pertain to basically how people are treated. And then there's the whole thing with the vice president coming from Indiana, Mike, was it Mike Pence? I think that's his name, Mike Pence. How he is towards gays. So basically you have an administration that's not favorable towards the LGBT community. And when you have stuff like this and the teachings and doctrines of the church, and different conservative I guess religious folks out there that come about and say, hey, look, you know what, we're not going to serve people who are LGBTQ, or we don't want to have to hire people who are LGBTQ. And this is coming directly from people who are in the administration at higher levels. How do you believe that a religious task force is not going to be directly associated or against the LGBTQ? I don't like him, he's racist, and he should not even be on that panel. No, he probably shouldn't, but at the same time he is. That's who Trump chose. But this is the same person that you turn around and say, hey, look, you know what, you're going to be the one that heads the Justice Department. You're going to be the one now who creates a religious task force. You're the one that's going to be in charge of the religious freedom of the United States, the people of the United States, the people of faith. And then when you look at it, there's more reports and things that are coming about Christian organizations. What about Muslims? What about Buddhists? You know what I'm saying? What about Hindus? You know what I'm saying? What about people of all faiths, of different faiths inside of the country? And then, like I said, people who are Jewish, I mean, is this just a Christian thing? Is it just for the conservative evangelicals of the country, or is this something that, encompasses all people? Is it something that, really, is for everybody? And thank you for coming through, Cargo Sparrow. I appreciate you. Tips from Taj Time, Sherry K, everybody else that's here in the chat. I thank you. Just forgive me. I'm trying to do a whole lot of things on here. I'm just trying to get used to and adjust to being on once a week. Not to burn myself out. It's religious freedom. All religious venues should be protected. We're one nation under God. This is true, Sherry K. But when it comes to the Religious Freedom Act, who's to say that Christians are going to get the same protections as the Muslims? Who's to say that the Hindus are going to be acknowledged the same way that the Jewish community gets acknowledged, and vice versa? And then it comes into, how do you take those religious freedoms now and you actually deal with the greater outside world, and what are the parameters and stuff like that? It's definitely more to get into. I just heard the story because I was going to talk about something totally different, and I just said I wanted to talk about this because it's something that's really, I must have my AC on high. Okay, sorry about that. I must have my AC on high. I don't know if you can hear me. Sorry about that. Sorry if you hear the AC. I actually got my fan on. I had to put my fan down. Touchdown. Let me know if it's on high now. Hopefully it's not. But yeah. I don't know. When I saw it, I don't want to tell you because I don't want you to turn it off. I know you turn it off. I see people comfortable. I like seeing people. No, it's all good. I could turn it off. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. I don't mind that touch time. Right now, I'm just adjusting right now. I'm just adjusting to, like I said, being on once a week. I appreciate you for being here. I'm just talking about something, well, whether I'm prepared for it or not prepared for it, this is where I'm at right now. I'm just glad to be on tonight, today, this evening, for the late shift and whatnot. So forgive me if I'm all over the place, but I'm here now. I'm conscious. So basically, great to see you as well. Great to see you as well, Tosh Time. And I challenge people out there to go support Tosh Time and awesome channel, both our channels, the original Tosh Time and Tips from Tosh Time. But back to the whole religious freedom task force that's being created. My point and my thing that me doing this live stream is to say that we don't need a task force. We don't need protection from the federal government or the Justice Party. I like how you're piecing this together. Makes sense. Thank you, Tosh Tom. You're too kind. You're too generous. I wish I could have pieced it a little bit better than I did, because I wish the audio was there, but I could definitely post a link to the Claretta Scott King reading from Elizabeth Warren, and I think it's something that everybody should check out. as far as religious freedom goes, as far as the character. Not it didn't speak about religious freedom, but as far as the character of Jeff Sessions, and who was in charge of the Justice Department and decided to oversee, the protections of religious liberty in this country. And I say to the people who are in the LGBT community and folks, who may not believe, I think it was the audio there. I just don't think some people want to always hear. Yeah, no, it is the audio on the it is the audio touch time. It's the audio on the actual video. You know, I'm not worrying about that though. I still got points to make and stuff to say. 20 minutes is elapsed, so it's all good. The hour will be up soon anyway, so it's not a big thing. So but yeah, this is kind of a last minute thing that I wanted to talk about because I thought this would be something interesting to really address, something really interesting to say. Probably should have been a little bit more prepared for it, but that's on me. So, but anyway, the point is that when it comes to religious freedom, when it comes to religious liberties, in the country, when it comes to, how people worship, when it comes to protections and stuff like that, no, not trying to be nasty or negative towards the federal government, but it's not like people need, you know, a task force. They don't need a special permission to worship. If you believe in Jesus or you believe in, what Buddha, or you believe in, Muhammad, whatever you believe in, right? Allah, you know, you don't need a special permission, a special sign. It doesn't need a task force to be created. Imagine the Crusades being fought with special permission. Imagine Spanish Inquisitions and stuff like that, and having to be fought with special permission. Even though some people say it was. The point is that if people are going to worship, they're going to worship regardless if they're getting protection from the federal government or not to believe what they believe. And I understand where Jeff Sessions was coming from, in a lot of the reports and the documents that he was talking about how, a fabric of the society is eroding and people are moving away from faith and stuff like that. And a lot of that has to do with the abuses that have come from religious figures and, the bigotry and the judgment that have come from people who are religious, and who have condemned people, who are not of the like mind, or maybe somebody's living an alternative lifestyle, something that may not, directly affect a person, but they may say, I'm going to condemn this person because, maybe they choose to love a man or maybe they choose to love a woman, whatever the case may be. So it comes to a point where, what, it's in each person's heart how they're going to worship. It's between you and your God, you and your conscience, where the protections and things come from. No offense to the federal government, but the federal government is not going to protect me, in my belief system. Of course, you have, your First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, and stuff like that. But long before there was a freedom of speech, there were people that believed in God. There were people who fought for what they believed in, or had convictions and had their cross to bear. Not to fear America is being made great again. Well, if this is America being made great again, Tosh Time, then wow, wow, I don't want to, wow, but it's kind of sad because, like I said, now when you look at the other side of the LGBTQ community, or people that are atheists, now they look at it and say, is this an attack? And it may be, a way to discriminate against people, who don't believe or who have a different point of view, because what do you think from, an administrative that has, discriminated against, the LGBTQ community, be it in the military or be it when it comes to business, or, I'm surprised they haven't tried to repeal the marriage equality, so that's an interesting thing right there. So you come into a point where you say, the real show time 23. Thank you, appreciate you for being here. So I look at it in a way, objectively. I understand that there are religious protections that are needed in society. I'm just not for the task force and the message of who is coming from. I understand the message. I just don't trust the messenger. I don't trust the methods of those folks that are particularly putting this together, because they don't speak for me. They don't speak for my beliefs. I don't need the federal government to all of a sudden decide that it wants to protect me if I decide to believe in Jesus or, Muhammad or, or Buddha or whatever. Now I need your protection. that comes without saying. If you have the conviction, you have the conviction. There are people who believe, regardless of whether or not they have protection from their government. The dots aren't connecting, that's for sure. Yes, the dots are connecting, Tosh Time. It is not, but some people are actually making sense when they say it's a discriminatory thing. When it comes to the discrimination of it, it says, okay, you know what? Now, if you have a business or something and you're somebody who cries religious freedom, now you don't have to serve people who don't believe what you believe. Because within the Religious Freedom Task Force, you have the issue of, now does it become a civil war? Are you protecting, somebody else's religious freedom versus another person's religious freedom? What's up, Iron Firehouse? Thank you for coming through. I appreciate you for being here. Um, it's dicey because when you look at it, how do you prove that it's not discrimination? How do you prove that it's not taken down? Too tight, too tight. It's all good. Iron Firehouse, I appreciate you for being here. Definitely, definitely, definitely. I was just putting together this live stream, making it happen, making it work. Just trying to do what I do. I'm not gonna be on here forever in the day, but we're here now. Hopefully I'm making sense in my conversation. And if there's anything that you folks out there in the audience want to add to this, feel free. Comment, like, subscribe. You know, thumbs up, thumbs down, everything all around. It's just something that I thought was interesting. And I know there's a lot of people that don't like to talk about the third rail of religion. On here. I talk about it because, like I said, it needs to be spoken about. It needs to be, put out there. This may not be a big issue for some people because you may not believe. I'm the type, I would type more, but I know how I am. So, well, I get you, Tosh Time. Definitely, I get you. I definitely get you, Tosh Time. There's nothing wrong with that. I just appreciate you for being here in this moment, in the here and now. And that's the most important part. So forgive me if with my audio and not having everything that I wanted to put together. So I kind of figured there'd probably be some kind of technical difficulties. The technical difficulties abound, but I'm still here doing what I got to do. So yeah. But for those that don't know, Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, for those people coming in, going back and forth, decided to create a religious freedoms task force because the fabric of religious society in America is eroding and it needs to be protected, and it's being seen indiscriminately, it's being seen in the shadows, it's not being noticed, according to Jeff Sessions. It just seemed kind of suspect because out of the blue you decide that you want to protect religious freedom, and then you don't say which religious freedom, you just say, I'm here to protect religious freedom. It's like I come to your block where you live and there's a bunch of houses and I say, I'm here to protect this house. So it's just like, which house are you talking about? Is it the Tosh Time house? Is it the Iron Fire house? Is it Sherry K? Who is it? Llama Monster. And it's like you said, Tosh, it is sweet of Jeff to care. It's sweet of him to care. But what makes it suspect is who it's coming from. Yeah, which religions? Well, I mean, think about it, Iron Firehouse. You're saying you're protecting religious freedom. Which religion free? And are you really, you know, clear about who, about what the parameters are? Especially since it said that, in the Constitution, or in the laws of America, that you can't have certain protections against someone because of religious reasons, but at the same time, people are free to believe what they believe. So, when you have those things being said, when you have those things out there like that, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, no, it is wacky. Shout out to Green Bay Wacky, not Green Bay Wacky, but it's wacky, wackadoo. So, but that's what it is. So I mean, it comes to a point where you say, where are we going with this? What is this really all about? People feel like, there's another agenda going on, as far as things are happening. So I don't know. I don't know if you have any thoughts on the matter. I know Tosh Top, she don't want to go in, but that's just what that is. So it, I don't know. This is supposed to be the progressive reactions to the religious progressive reaction to religious liberty task force prove why we need it. So they're saying because of the reaction that people were having on the other side, this proves why we need it, because people are in an uproar about it. I don't know if people's reaction to it as something that's dangerous and discriminatory is the reason for us needing it. Yeah, I gotta look deeper. Lots of people don't. I, I think Iron Firehouse people don't want to look deeper because it's such a divisive issue when it comes to religion, in general. So, why would we want to go deeper on something when, you say, hey, you know what, I can live without it. I can do without it. Religious freedom. What's the point? I'll be okay. I'll be okay. It's not worth exploring. It's not worth diving deeper into. We'll be fine just without it. And I don't know. So it's talking about the Daily Beast did say Religious Liberty Task Force declares holy war on LGBT people. The Attorney General's new Religious Liberty Task Force will ensure that the Trump administration's program of discrimination against LGBT people and other communities goes unchecked. Sadly, it's no exaggeration, no hyperbole to say that the Attorney General Jeff Sessions declared war. Lots of people here in Canada are outright refusing to talk politics. Is so polarized. Well, I am Firehouse. Even if I'm doing the conversation justice or not, I don't know. To not bring it up, to not talk about it, to not explore it, to not get into stuff like this is a problem because when these things become a bigger issue and people don't know where to go with it, and things seem out of control, somebody looks back, historians look back and say we had time, we had a moment, encapsulated. Maybe this is that moment. I don't know, So, oh wow, they even got Religious Liberty Task Force sweaters. I didn't know this was a thing. But yeah, that's crazy. That's how crazy it is. They got religion. They got, oh man, we live in a crazy world. Sorry about that. What's going on, Pink Kisses? I'm talking about religion. Hey, what have I missed? Um, well, you haven't missed too much. I don't know if you've even heard about this art. It's Jeff Sessions and the Religious Liberty Task Force that he created. Yes, we need to talk to each other and listen. That's how humans learn. Yeah, we do need to learn. So basically, let me go to this. Let me get into this and let you know what's going on. Lonely Prepper. So I mean, definitely you could just literally go and Google a Religious Liberty Task Force. So the Trump administration has a tough time making a decision, making this case to evangelical voters, convincing them that of the existence of a war on religion helps. On Monday, Jeff Sessions stood before the assembled crowd at a religious liberty summit in Washington and assured the largest and most powerful demographic group in America that their years of suffering and unimaginable cruelty at the hands of the federal government would soon come to an end. This Department of Justice is going to court across America to defend the rights of people of faith, he declared, announcing the information of Religious Liberty Task Force to ensure that the DOJ effectively implements its guidance on the subject both in the office and also in the court. As our nation grows older, we must not let it depart from its noble traditions. So basically, what's going on, Lonely State Prepper, is that Jeff Sessions, the Trump administration, the Department of Justice have decided that they will protect your faith. They will protect your faith. But the funny thing about this is that they're in front of a lot of evangelicals. So are you protecting the evangelicals? Are you protecting the Muslims? Who is this for? Is this just for one group of people, one particular set of folks with a particular set of money and stuff like that? Is this to the black churches? Is this to the Spanish churches? Is it to the Muslims? Is it to the Jews? Is it to the Hindus, the sheiks? What I'm saying? Is it to, people of lesser known faiths? I mean, and is this a cause? Is this a right to discriminate against the LGBTQ community because you may not want to serve them in your businesses, you may not want to have them in your social settings? What is this about? So there's some more explaining that is needed to be done. And things are coming out about what's happening and stuff like that. So that's out there. We're going to the back in time. Yeah, I Firehouse. Some people saying that we're going back in time as it equates to discrimination and stuff like that. Some of the things that are happening right now is kind of crazy. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It seems like a fake issue that's being created. So it's just like, why now? Why now? Why, how this? And some people were trying to, like I said, in the administration are trying to keep campaign promises and things like that that they've made, to build the wall and to protect religious faith and to bring jobs back and to do all these things that people wanted to be done. And some things are beneficial to the people and some things are not. And then when you have stuff like this, how do you put together a religious liberty task force and not cause a division and not cause a schism, a chasm, inside of American society? Who's to say we needed it? It's like me coming to your house and deciding, what, you live in a safe gated community, but I'm gonna stand out there with a shotgun and a dog, and I'm gonna protect your house. And you didn't need it. You're in a safe community, or you're in an environment where you're, self-contained and you're protecting yourself. Why do you need me now out there to be there? Maybe I have an agenda of my own. And let me see what Lonely Prep is saying. I'm not concerned what's happening on top of the table. What's happening under the table? Yeah. That's definitely true. That's definitely true, Lonely Prepper. Well, those are the things that you have to dig a little deeper for to find out. Our new provincial government is to turn back the sex education curriculum they had into the 90s. That's crazy. That's crazy. I don't even want to think about what's happening and going on in the 90s. But it seems like there's this conscious effort to actually roll things back to the way it was and be more conservative and whatnot. Yeah, exactly. Touch time, like Lonely State Prepper was saying, people are so focused on what's happening on top of the table. The question is what's happening, underneath. It's nuts before the internet. Yeah, it's nuts after the internet too. While things are going on right now, it's a situation where you say, what, hey, what's happening in the back rooms, or what deals are being made, what campaign promises are being made to certain, people of certain religions and stuff like that. It's important to note where this conversation was taking place. It was taking place at a religious freedom summit, and a lot of people that were there talking were conservative, evangelicals, or people who were supporters of the administration. People with deep pockets. Of course you have deep faith and everything like that, as it said or alleged or whatever. I don't know. But it doesn't hurt the situation that a lot of these folks have deep pockets as well. It would have been interesting if I would have heard a situation where it was all religions, from all over the country that was sitting there doing it. Now, I wasn't in the room. I'm not going to pretend like I know every and anything that was there, but it's a situation where, what, it's not being presented to the public or being presented out to the community as if, this is a protection for all religions. It's being presented as this is a protection for certain people, of a certain demographic, of a certain denomination, of a certain, I guess, political leaning, towards the administration. So, what happens to people who may be people of faith who are not supporters of the Trump administration? Do they have the protections too? And the question is, do you need that protection? Why do you need this protection all of a sudden? If less people actually believe, then that's them. I mean, if you believe in God or choose not to believe in God or saying God I believe or whatever the case may be, if you have a different way to live your life, then why not live your life? Regardless of what it is, regardless if you sleep with another man sleeping with another man, a woman sleep with another woman, regardless if you're somebody who decides to go through transition surgery and become, a man or woman or whatever the case may be. We've gone conservative, Christian. We have white supremacist alt-right groups now. Yeah, it's crazy. The conservative Christian alt-right groups are dangerous. They are dangerous, and they use and abuse people in the name of God. Unfortunately, and some people may not want to hear this, but the truth is that it's happening. It's happening now in real time. There are real time situations. There's racial tensions going on. There's, holy situations going on, holy wars. I mean, is it a holy war being waged, by Jeff Sessions and the Department of Justice? I don't know if that's the case, but there are many people out there that feel that way. Twitter was in the uproar. Social media, is concerned. What does it mean, civil, religious liberties? Why do we need a task force all of a sudden? Are people going to be arrested and detained? Will businesses be closed down? What will happen? Will people be discriminated against? Will there be abuses and stuff like that? I think there will. People will say against it and try to say no. It's just a way to protect, our faith and the things that we're for, the things that we lobby, about and whatnot. But how do you guarantee that? You can't guarantee that. You can't guarantee that a religious liberties task force is going to be put in place and everything is going to work just fine. What I'm saying? So it's just kind of crazy. It is tricky. So you have so many people who are guilty of the bigotry, of racism, of discrimination. And then the administration that this is coming from, this is the same administration that's having issues right now with immigration. So how do you go from having issues with immigration and the marginalized in this country to now deciding that you're going to have a religious liberty task force to protect people's faith? That's, I don't know. Or crazy new so-called religions like the Church of the Cannabis, smoke pot religion. Well, that's a whole other situation right there, lowly prepper. I mean, new religions being created, and the religion of the cannabis. That one, that's a little dicey right there. That's divisive and whatnot. But you know, it is what it is. If you're gonna worship cannabis, that's your business. I mean, who am I to tell you you can't? But then to say or turn around, I wonder, do they protect those folks that worship the cannabis? Or is it just because we don't deem you a real one, you can't? Might as well have David Duke be Jeff's chief of staff. Wow. Wow, David Duke. For those people that don't know who David Duke is, I mean, let's just. You brought up a name. You brought up a name, David Duke. I'll go into David Duke for those that don't know. I'll get his stats online for you folks. Taj Tom knows. You know, um, David Duke was actually a Trump supporter as well. For those people that don't know. Oh my God, David Duke, David Duke, David Duke, um, David Duke. Yeah, David Ernest Duke is an American white supremacist and white nationalist politician, anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist, Holocaust denier, convicted felon, and former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. And this was a supporter of Trump in the primaries. You can actually go research this. There was a situation that there was a primary or something going on, and while the primary was going on, they were asking Trump, if he would denounce David Duke, and there was, basically him trying to get reelected the Republican nomination, and there was this controversy of whether or not he would denounce David Duke, and Trump waited to the very last minute to denounce David Duke, very last minute to denounce him, and he kind of still never really did. But after he got the voters, and that was into after he got the support from those folks out there in Georgia. What's going on, Jidlin? Thank you for coming through. So it's important for me to go through that. Why I even take the time out to say who this is, and Tosh Time made him up, is because there's people like this that support the administration. There are people like this who are part of this. Yeah, I sounded like a slot from the Goodies. Yeah, nah, it's all good, Jilly. It's all good. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you sounding like a sloth, sounding like yourself. Hey, you guys. It's all good. So yeah, Tosh Tom. Tosh Tom brought up somebody who, if they were part of the chief of staff, and oh my God, I don't know what I would do. You have a Grand Master of the Ku Klux Klan, a Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, involved. What I'm saying? I don't even want to think about that. That's just the type of world we live in. I mean, even though the Ku Klux Klan is not what they used to be, the possibilities are endless. Yes, they are, Tosh Time. I don't even want to think about a Grand Wizard from the Ku Klux Klan being inside of the administration, but that's just what it is. Yeah. So let me go to a raw story if you wanna know, because I said David Duke is somebody that supports the Trump administration. So there was a story from rawstory.com talking about former Klan wizard David Duke compares Trump to Jesus in historical attack on media and Jews. Former Klan wizard David Duke compares Trump to Jesus. He's going a little too far, but that's just what happens. Seeing that the media is unfair and attacking him and whatnot, and I'm not going to go into the whole story, but The reason that this is important is because these are people that support and help shape some of the policy or the type of things that the administration is about. And these are some of the people that folks are making campaign promises to. That's why it's even important for me to go. I'll read a little bit of it. I'm catching up on the video best I can. Okay, yeah, you're talking to Jidley. That's what it is. Former KKK Grand Wizard and white nationalist David Duke celebrated Donald Trump joins press conference with Russian President Vladimir Putin and compared the U.S. leader to Jesus Christ. Bravo Trump, bravo Russia, David Duke tweeted Monday. Bravo to all American patriots who put America first and peace and justice before the Zionist deep evil state ruling America, media, and politics. Russia has values America once had, and America the values that communist Russia had. Okay, so I don't agree with that, but these are the type of people that the administration have supporting them, whether they admit it publicly, whether they whether they deny it. It is what it is. Like I said, I'm not making this stuff up. You can find it online. You can go where you need to go with that. And the reason that's an issue, and I take the time out to go into that because it's scary, and it's like what Tosh Tom said. The possibilities are endless. So now you go into the character of somebody like a Jeff Sessions who's discriminated, on people from 1986. Like I said, if you get a chance, go, Google Claretta Scott King's letter to the courts about Jeff Sessions in 1986, and it will talk about the horrendous things that Jeff Sessions did to discriminate against black people who were just fighting for the right to vote, who were fighting for the right to be heard in this country, who were fighting for the right to be a part of American society, a country that it helped build, whether by choice, whether by force. So, it's important to note the character of a person that's doing a thing. Like, you don't want to go to a boss or work for a boss which hates you. You don't want to be in a relationship with somebody who's your enemy. So, you don't want to be, following behind somebody who doesn't have your best interest in mind. What's going on, Big Dog Leather? Thank you for coming through. This is just a little bit serious subject. I am talking about religion. I just, I realized it before, but this is a third real thing. You don't really talk about religion online, on social media, and stuff like that. So I know I'm not supposed to be talking about it, but I am talking about it because it is interesting. And I'm talking about it because it needs to be said. It needs to be said that just because, there are people who believe, there are people who are of faith, myself, others, who believe in God, doesn't mean that we believe in discriminating against people who don't believe, or people who, thank you, I Firehouse, or people who do have, different ways of living. That you can do your thing. No, Big Dog Leather. I say that because I know everybody doesn't want to talk about everything. Everybody doesn't want to get into every conversation and stuff like that. So it is a situation where you say, all right, look, this conversation may or may not be for you. So I do, I do understand that, and I do, appreciate people, for expressing their opinions, on that part. But back to what I was saying. As it pertains to religious freedom and liberty and stuff like that, it is something to be said about being somebody of faith, and at the same time being able to coexist with people who may not be of faith, or people who may not believe like you believe. It doesn't mean that a person is evil. It doesn't mean that a person should burn in hell. It doesn't mean that a person, is not worthy of being treated with dignity and respect as a human being. So now, when it comes to a religious freedom task force that's being created by the federal government from an attorney general who has shown a discriminatory past versus people who've already been marginalized in this country, and it's been documented, you start to wonder, what is that about? You look on the surface of it, and of course you're saying things, that make sense. A lot of things that don't make sense. What's going on underneath the table? What is Big Dog Letter saying? I consider myself Christian, but I have fairly big issues with organized religion and more hypocrisy. Well, yeah, as it pertains to organized religion, that's an issue of it too, and I'm glad you brought that up, Big Dog Leather. When it comes to organized religion, there are abuses that exist within organized religion. There's discrimination, there's bigotry, there's even racism that exists within organized religion. There's abuses that have happened to people. There are folks that have been abused by people, that they went to go seek help from, be it mentally, physically, spiritually, what I'm saying, sexually, so financially, there's people who've been used and abused in the name of God. So there are a lot of people who believe who are agnostic, but they don't want to, believe in organized religion. And I definitely understand that. I'm agnostic and I don't discriminate. I just don't get on my bad side. Yeah, I can understand and relate to that, paint kisses. So that's definitely, one of those things, that I tell people, just to be, mindful of, that there are people who have that, I'm just not as close, I'm closer to God, whatever it was. Well, hey, I can relate to that. I can definitely relate to that. Big dog leather, being out there in nature, sometimes you just gotta, look up and talk to the big man and go from where you need to go from there, So I'm not definitely saying anything against that. But the thing that I say, and I can understand the other side, the LGBT community, the people who may, believe or not believe in different ways. I can understand where they're coming from when they're looking over at a Justice Department that has a head who's known for discrimination and already has had issues with the LGBT community. How can you turn around then and say you're going to be here to protect religious freedoms when there's so many issues and divisive things going on when it comes to, immigration and stuff like that? How can you now turn around and say we're going to help you with religious freedom? I understand the message, but sometimes it's the messenger as well. Yes, I can totally relate to Big Dog. Yes, definitely. I think we can all relate to Big Dog Leather in a lot of ways. There are a lot of people who have an apathy towards religion and whatnot. Yeah, Iron Firehouse. It just makes no sense, and it does cause one to wonder. It does cause one to wonder why, we need a task force. I mean, the argument has to be made, but it seems like it's more of a political ploy. It seems like it's more of a ploy to support, certain conservative Christians as a point. Yeah, it makes no sense at all. Why do I need a task force or anybody need a task force to believe? I mean, even if you discriminate against my belief, I don't need a task force. Yeah, it does sound backwards, Iron Firehouse. I don't need a task force to believe in God. I don't need a special permissions from the federal government. I mean, the world is changing. Things that weren't acceptable, 20 years ago or 10 years ago are socially acceptable now, whether you believe it or you don't. I'm not going to hate on somebody because, they love a person of the same sex. That's just what they do. I have family members, brothers and sisters, rest in peace to my oldest brother. He was conflicted. One minute he was Muslim, the next he was gay. So but I still love my brother. This is unconstitutional and against the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. Yes, it is. It is against the First Amendment. But at the same time, a lot of different things are changing. So you talk about freedom of speech, and then there's a task force, and then there's other things going on. So I mean, but they're finding ways to make it work. Some people say, like I said, is a ploy to discriminate against the LGBTQ community. Now, I'm not saying that's not the case, but I think it's more of a campaign promising to show up support for a large demographic of supporters for the administration, because you got to remember something. This is coming in 2018. Now, for the presidential elections, realistically, 2019 is it's the third year. It's the third year of the presidency. Well, it's the third year. I'm lying. It's the third year. You say 19, 17, 18, 20. So yeah, okay. It's going into the later part of the term. So now you have to start thinking about re-election. So it's interesting that this is coming up now, towards the second half of the year, right? And you have, a thing about religious freedom and a task force being created, and conservative Christians needed to be coddled, and folks needed to be reassured that their liberties and rights are being protected. I personally think that this is political. I think this is to shore up support for Donald Trump's 2020 bid for president, and making sure that he has that support. That Jeff Sessions is putting something in place that'll keep him around for a little bit, maybe, I don't know, if he doesn't get fired. But the thing is, I think this is about politics. This is strictly politics in a way, part of it. Another part of it, it is discrimination, against, different people. So strange. Got to be politically motivated. Yeah, no, it is strange. I think it's politically motivated mainly, but I do think there's discriminations that are going to come from it. I think the discriminations will come for the people who are being protected. I hate to say it, the discrimination may come from the conservative Christians, but the political part of it is, hey, what's going on, Eagle VP? You said you would check me out if you were on. I think the political part of it is coming from, the politicians, the DOJ, and stuff like that. So definitely that's a part of it and whatnot. I just look at it as if, you have to be able to see through what's actually happening. You have to be able to, see with a clear mind, see with a clear eye, clinical eye, and say that there's something going on beneath the surface. And definitely there's going to be, a lot more to be said about this. This is not over. The president can have his own opinions, but his job is to represent all Americans. Yes, this is true, but how do you represent all Americans now when you know, you're basically saying, okay, now there's a special task force that's going to make sure that people of faith are having their I guess religious freedoms protected when they didn't need that task force to fight for religious freedom. There are people who are going to fight for religious freedom, regardless of whether or not the DOJ has a task force to do it. What are they going to do? Break down people's doors and say you're not holy enough? Do Department of Justice. What are you going to have the FBI and CIA, going around the world making sure religious freedom is protected? I don't. It doesn't make sense. It's just the dots don't connect. The numbers don't add up. The calculus isn't right. It's just, I think personally, this is politically motivated, but the byproduct of it will be discrimination. Discrimination will come against people who do not believe in certain beliefs that are come from certain organizations. Be it they radical or not radical, be it they Christian conservatives. Pink kisses. It gives a lot of us a headache, but I think it's something. I keep shaking my head too, but I think it's something that people need to pay attention to. What's going on, when it comes to religious freedom, when it comes to discrimination, stuff like that. I'm not saying that there are not abuses towards people who believe religiously what they believe, but, at the same time, it's like, don't take that discrimination against you and now flip it and turn it into something that's divisive. Don't turn it into something that's going to divide people rather than to bring people together. And I think that's what's going to happen, with stuff like this, if they keep doing stuff like this. Because, I mean, I still can't understand why you would need a religious task force to say, what, I'm going to protect your religious freedoms when nobody asked you, and then coming from you, maybe the people that asked you don't represent all of Americans. I know they don't represent all people that believe, but those are the people that are marginalized. And okay, well, maybe you're crazy, you're over there. I know they don't speak for me, for somebody that believes in God. I don't say, okay, well, Jeff Sessions is on my side and Jeff Sessions will make sure that I can worship in peace. Yeah, more issues, definitely more issues, but what are you going to do? I just say, tell people to stay aware, just try not to be divisive towards folks. Don't be discriminatory. Don't support those policies if they're definitely gonna tear people apart. It's kind of crazy like that. That's what it is. It's nice like these that annoy me when I see YouTubers that should have women supporters. Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good, Tosh time. It's all good. Everybody has their moment. Everybody has their time when they need to put in work. The reality, if you want to go into a Tosh time, is I haven't perfected my craft enough. I haven't gotten to that stage where I would have 1 million subscribers or would have a bigger platform. But I do have you folks, and you folks make me feel like I'm putting in the work and I'm saying something significant. And forgive me if I had a slow start, but believe me, having you 5 folks here, having a 9 thumbs up, having your full attention, having your engagement in the conversation is definitely, it makes me feel like I have 1 million subscribers right now. So definitely when I have influential people in here or conscientious people, thought-provoking people, so you make me want to come on here. I have a channel called I Fire Politics. Oh, that's what's up. There you go, Tashan. You as well. Small YouTubers are best. Yeah, sometimes that's the case. Pink kisses. Sometimes that is the case. Me and Tashan, we spoke about that briefly. Sometimes having smaller group is easy to engage with people. I think this is a precursor to something else coming down the pike later. Not necessarily looks on the surface. Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Lonely State Prep. I mean, Lonely State Prepper, Lonely Prepper. I definitely agree with you. This is a precursor of what's to come. No videos yet. Well, let us know, Iron Firehouse. When you do Iron Fire Politics, hey, you never know. I'm somebody. I'm not just politics, but I talk about all different things. I actually was going to talk about bias in Hollywood for this conversation, but then religious freedom and stuff like that came up. So I just figured, hey, let me talk about this while this is still hot, because what I really want you to get, I want you to get invested into is I want you to look further into the conversation. I want you to see what's going on out there. I want you to, really pay attention to just, this whole issue and whatnot. Not deeply, but just look at what's going on out there. Seeing the things that are happening and whatnot. It's important to know, what's going on in your government, state, local, even international and whatnot. They used to say that it was a time when people were more informed, well informed. I'm not saying you have to watch the news every night. I'm not saying you have to be involved in every story, but it's important to pay attention. Bias and Holly Show, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I was going to talk about. But I have time. I have time. I mean, maybe next week or the week after. I definitely going to get my research together, because this one is a little different. This live stream is a little different because I haven't been going live like I was. I'm actually pacing myself now. I'm trying to make sure that when I put stuff out, yeah. I do have a list. I do have a list, Lonely Prepper. I do have a list of things to talk about. But I had to redo everything. I had to reshift and rechange everything. And maybe in the ninth inning, I guess you change the game. Because it comes to a point where you have to do what's making sense. And I do appreciate folks for being here. So, I will be here, next Tuesday at 10 p.m. around that time. And I definitely just try to go for an hour and just do what I do from there. So, but I'm definitely grateful for you folks for coming through and just supporting me and being here. Hopefully this conversation was thought provoking. Hopefully I said something that made sense here to you. Hopefully it's something that's gonna definitely have you to look into it. Good night, pain kisses. Thank you. Your recent poetry low was on. Yes, it was. I appreciate that, Tasha. I'm working on something else, but definitely I'll get back to you about some things. I got some more stuff to come, more content to come. Thank you for supporting me, folks. I appreciate you. See you next time. Thank you, Tosh Tom. As always, spread love is the Brooklyn way. And this is the late shift with Mel Mel. See you next week. Yeah. See you next week.